Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Today, as you can see, we're in the CVX 130. We're moving bales again. This isn't really what this video is going to be about, but I had made these series of videos already and the sound quality wasn't the best, so I said I'd redo them again basically while I'm hearing this, that you'll be able to hear me hopefully very clearly. Anyway, the TVT is back together. We think we've the problem solved anyway. There was the gasket, like I was saying, the gasket between the two pumps was a homemade one, and there was a slight reef in it from when it was put in the last time. So put in a genuine gasket this time, and seems to have vastly improved the way she is. You know, the pump isn't noising. So other than that, TVT is still in the shed because I'm going to fully service it now and go through it and check out a lot of nooks and crannies. I was just looking at the drive coming from the crankshaft pulley going onto the front PTO, and there's a small bit of play in it. It'll probably do, I'd imagine you're probably knock another couple of years out of it, but I think I might just do it now because she does all the mowing, and I don't want to be without. Well, basically, I want to minimise the chances of the tractor and mower. The tractor that does all the mowing breaking down someday. It'd be a fright for it to run the splines out mowing someday, and you know, just the grief then of having to go at all of that when you've enough on your plate. So that's kind of basically the TVT. Coming into the new year, we'll be kind of doing much the same with everything really, giving a look through them, see what's worn and what needs to be changed before it fails, and you know, we won't do it with absolutely everything, but kind of, I suppose, the important stuff definitely get a run through. So that's kind of basically it about that. What these videos are going to be about, because there'll probably be a few of them, is we'll take up where we left off at history and how we got into doing hire work, and how that developed into what it is now. So I suppose we're going to start off wrapping bales and wrapping small round bales, which were bales of haylage, and small square bales. We weren't wrapping those, but what I'm going to do here is, when I already recorded this, it was a real mix match and it seemed hard to follow when I played it back, so I might start with tractors and come kind of where that tractor went to and what replaced it in that, instead of forwarding back about everything. So basically, we were wrapping the small round bales and making the small square bales of haylage. What tractors we had that time is we had a 165 Massey, and my father restored that. Before he had that, he had another 165. That was just for vintage runs and a bit of a hobby. He also had a Fiat 411R, which I never again saw another one of them. I've seen two 11Rs, but I've never seen another 411R. And that was a beautiful tractor. That was the nicest looking vintage tractor I have ever seen. It had the panels were this lovely orange colour, and it just sounded so good. It was obviously a 4-cylinder. It was a small tractor, but it was a lovely raspy note off of it. And unfortunately, look, when we started at this, I suppose a lot of that stuff had to go to make room for other machines. And in a period, I suppose, after my father got out of the hire work, he had a 3130 John Deere, which he used to hire into contractors here and there, and he used to be drawing silage and he had spare time and stuff like that. So he sold that 3130, I'd say, around the time they were building a house, and he once we kind of started getting back into it, then again, when we had the 165, he bought the 3130 back, and we restored the 3130. So we had the two of them then on the wrapper and the small square balers. But the 165 was actually faster on the wrapper than the 3130 because he fitted a multi-power pump to it. The tractor wasn't multi-power, but it had a multi-power pump, which meant you had wicked fast hydraulics. It was actually a lovely yoke on the wrapper. It had the 365 cab, and we had that, I suppose, for maybe 2 years. And you're coming into kind of the end of boom times, I would say, and that kind of stuff was making colossal money. So he sold that on, and when he sold that, we bought a 3350 John Deere. So we had the 3350 John Deere and the 3130 at this stage, and we were small square baling with two small square balers. There was a couple of years there we done an awful lot of small square baling. We just had good summers, and you know, it kind of became popular again there a small bit. I'd say we probably done between 10 and maybe 15, not even 15, maybe 10 and 13,000 small square bales for a couple of years, which I suppose when you break it into round bales isn't an awful lot, but for modern times it's a lot, because there wouldn't be that many lads making a lot of small square bales now. So this, at that time then, we were kind of, the small bales were winding down, and this blue Tanko wrapper that I could safely say it was the worst machine we ever had. I actually saw one the other day it was either on Dundee or on some auction site, but the dispenser for the wrapper was on the opposite side, and it was an absolute disaster of a yoke. There was a motor out at the very front of the drawbar, and it had a huge chain going all the way around the table of the wrapper, and that was spinning your table, but the chain had nothing to grip onto. It just had a kind of a plastic runner, and if you're the heavy bale or it was raining, the chain would just slip on the table, and you'd be backwards and forwards trying to get it going. Once it started moving, you were away, but it was an ordeal of a thing. So kind of all the haylage were starting to die down now at this stage. We sold the two small square balers because we were coming up now into wet years. I would say maybe 2011 or 12, which were fairly wet, and there was no small square baling being done really. So we sold them on. The man that was making the small round bales of haylage, he kind of decided to get out of that a small bit as well, and go into making silage and his own silage and a small bit of hire work. So he bought a 550 McHale, and we changed the wrapper. We had a Cavernland wrapper, 7517 I think it was called. It was a lovely wrapper. It was joystick control. It had big wide tyres on it, and we wrapped for a few years with that, and it would have been on the 3350 at this stage. When we bought the 3350, she was not really running, I suppose you could. Well, it was running, but the clutch was stuck to the flywheel, so it wasn't usable. We had to split it and put a new clutch into it. And you know, with all these things, once you split yokes and you start diving into them, you go a lot deeper than you first intended, I suppose, is how I'd put it. So we went into the back end of it and done the back end, and there was gears chipped in the back end of it and stuff like that, and just spruced her up. But them 50 series, especially the 50s, we had a 40 series as well, and it didn't seem to give as much trouble, but those 50s seem to be very bad inside in the back end of them. They're just not meant for kind of hydraulic work at all, really. And I suppose about 4 or 5 years later it started kicking up again, and look, I'd say we've been inside in the back end of that tractor maybe 4 times. So we were wrapping with that. We had the 3130, and around this time we bought a plough and a power harrow, but we soon figured that the 3350 wasn't man enough to handle them. I have a funny feeling she'd lift the plough, no problem. She wouldn't lift the plough high enough was the problem actually, for the plough to swing over, because the plough swung down opposed to up, and I know some ploughs you can change them, but this plough you couldn't change it, and your front boards were getting caught in the ground when you went to turn it. So that was kind of, we had to change something then, so we sold the 3130, and that would be our second time selling that tractor. And we bought an 8340 New Holland, and we kept that tractor for all of about, I would say, 3 weeks, and sold it on again. We could not take to that SLE gearbox at all. Just really, not that there was any fault with it, I just really didn't like it. But rakes of power in the 8340, but just no, wouldn't be gone in one of them at all. So we moved that on, and it was the 6900 John Deere didn't replace that. When we went to see the 6900, it was working inside in the bog in Clare. They were reclaiming the bog, they were draining it, and that's where we went to see it. It was actually working up there with dual wheels on it. So we brought that on from there, and